Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of Defending Cardcaptors, a title that I am sticking with for the foreseeable future. Today we're watching Partners in Crime. This is the second episode of Cardcaptors, according to the Cardcaptor Sakura episode order. Again, as I stated in the first episode, I'm not going by the North American Cardcaptors air dates. I'm just going to follow the Cardcaptor Sakura episode order because it's just easier that way. Even though I do have the episode list of what Cardcaptors went in. But point is, I'm going to just watch the series as we go. So this is an episode that I'm actually really looking forward to watching because not only is Shadow my favorite Cloud card, this is also the first Cardcaptors episode that did not air in North America that I get to watch. So unlike the previous episode where I was familiar with the episode and kind of knew what to expect, despite kind of coming back to it after years of never seeing Cardcaptors, I have no clue what's going to be in here. I don't know what kind of changes would have been made to this episode at all. So I'm looking forward to watching this one.
Rise and shine! It's 7 o'clock. Time to wake up.
Surfer Kiro!
I wonder who that is.
It's
What a weird...
really exaggerated in this. I don't remember it being that exaggerated in the last episode.
Must have left the TV on.
Which
But it's off.
I mentioned this in the last episode where it's like, I don't know what order these episodes were recorded in. If they were recorded in the North American order and they went back and did the rest of them, or if they recorded them in the Cardcaptor Sakura order, but then North America only used a few of them.
You're the creature from the Cloud Book. No one woke me up for your information. Never mind.
Cutting dialogue.
Hey, Mom. Good morning.
There was definitely a cut there. That was way too awkward.
Hey,
Right, they cut the scene where she actually sees the cookies and she takes them. Because I guess in an episode titled Partners in Crime, they don't want to show her actually stealing
I
things.
better get going. Huh? Look at the time. I'm supposed to meet Madison. Bye.
Change in dialogue, because in the original, she wasn't planning to see Tomoyo in school early. Like, Tomoyo surprises her. There's an animation error. They colored her badge red all the way around. Since I don't know what else to say about the dub right now, I can just be like, just comment on whatever I see. Which means that half the series is going to be me commentating on, like,
Oh, I'm the first one here.
it's going to be commentating on just stuff in the show. And just like that, I'm the first one here. They clearly cut the dialogue out of she's supposed to be, the classroom setup, which is admittedly not something that,
Well, I'm glad to see
it's not really a
you.
common
So,
thing in North
fun
America,
idea
so
for a
I guess that
project.
makes sense.
Yes, I do. But
It makes sense that they would remove that
I wanted to show you
concept.
first, Sakura.
She's got this Madison. Like, now I get to actually talk about Madison. The
Here's the magnifying
Maggie Blue O'Hara is the voice of Madison, and I know she gets some guff for the Valley Girl voice that she gives Tomoyo, but
where are you?
I kind of like sassy Madison.
Wait.
There's a certain. It makes sense knowing why they gave her this kind of rich snobby girl voice, knowing now that Tomoyo is a rich girl in the original sub, because that's not a thing that I knew when I watched the series the first time. So it really didn't make any sense, but it also had no symbolic value why they would give Madison that kind of voice.
Introduce us, Sakura?
But now it kind of makes sense, knowing that Tomoyo is a rich girl and Madison is also a rich girl, because the dub
Much cuter.
removed all reference to Madison being rich by virtue of removing most of those episodes, or all of them, really. I don't think you ever saw Madison's family. You never saw her mother, you never saw her house, you never saw anything in the North American dub because it was all cut out.
What do you... You have got to let me film this.
She's exactly the same character. I love the extra energy that Maggie Blue gives to Madison. Like, Tomoyo is great, and I'm sure her voice and very dignified speech, carries a lot more character and meaning in the Japanese, but I think making her sound very regal or very very posh, I guess would be the equivalent English term, would not have gone over well in English. So I'm glad that they gave her kind of a different voice. Maybe like Beverly Hills Valley Girl wasn't the best choice, but Maggie Blue from the other series that I've heard her in, I think I've only ever heard her in Monster Rancher. She has that exact same voice, so I'm not totally sure she has another accent.
I know.
What do you mean me?
If this is the work of a cloud card, you have to capture it.
And what if I don't want to?
Who was it that let the cards escape? So we go back to the school tonight. Yeah.
See, one of the reasons why they cut a lot of the early episodes for Cardcaptors in North America was that they wanted to, in addition to accelerating Lee's presence in the show, they also wanted to cut out a bunch of episodes that made Sakura look, I don't know, less heroic, which meant that they tried to cut down on her, scenes where she looked too afraid of things, but also I guess they cut out these early episodes that showed her being very, very reluctant to accept the call of adventure. I almost want to stop and talk about this scene. Oh look, there's the costume she's about to wear. Like, there's a bunch of recolored versions of her costumes in there, and just a bunch of things that we'll never actually see. She's not looking at him, she was looking up.
This is so much fun. Quit stalling, Sakura. Give it a minute.
Now there is one difference also with her voice like this, in that it often makes Madison sound more sinister than Tomoyo. And I wonder if, I don't know, I mean, really, Tomoyo also comes off as very sinister sometimes. She has that Ojo-sama bend to her, where like she's an evil princess, an evil queen, but she presents herself as regal and perfect, but under the veneer is such darkness. Madison, with that voice, sounds a little more upfront about being more manipulative and more pushy. That voice fits that character type a little more. Fun thing to comment on here, even though this episode never aired in North America, they used a lot of clips, especially from this fight, in the advertising. Like the TV spots, the TV spots, the commercials, all that. They used this scene, they used the scenes of her like swinging at the shadows, all that stuff. That was in the promotional material a lot. And it was really disappointing that this episode never aired. See, like this part here, this was in the commercials a lot. And I don't blame them. It looks really good. It's like, it's actiony, and it presents the series in a good light. It's just that it was really disappointing that they never aired this episode.
But isn't there some other way?
I suppose the difficulty in airing this episode is because since they started the series, 7 episodes in, they couldn't air this episode that shows Madison being inducted into the cardcapting circle. I guess they could have aired it. They could have probably aired it and cut out that early scene, but that would have been... I mean, they would have been cutting like 2 or 3 minutes out of the episode that they'd have to fill somewhere else. So, for practical reasons, I understand why this episode didn't air. She's got good screams. Oh, this is good victory music. I like this. I haven't been commenting on the soundtrack, which admittedly, the soundtrack of this episode hasn't stuck out to me. But this is a good track. the voice matching is so, or the mouth matching is so off in that, but to be entirely honest, I'm pretty sure it's fairly off in the original series too, so I'm gonna cut that a pass, but that's probably the worst lip syncing. I mean, I'm not one to really pay too much attention to lip syncing often. Mostly as long as the mouth is moving while the characters are talking in roughly the same beat, I don't care. But, yeah, I mean, I guess there are going to be moments where it looks really bad. It always feels like the cuts are half a second or a second too early here, though. So, I'm wondering if that's, like, the episode isn't flowing quite right to me. And I'm thinking that that's what's happening, is that they're cutting some of these scenes like half a second or a second sooner than I'm used to.
Thanks for your help last night. I brought you a... What the...
She should not be watching this in school. Like, Madison, why? Tomoyo, why?
How well this came out.
You have an in-home theater.
You taped everything last night? Of course. I didn't.
Why would you do this at school?
Second of your capture. Promise me you'll take me with you whenever you capture cards, okay?
So yeah, that's the second episode, and I mean, I was a lot more chatty for this one than the first episode. There was a lot more to say. Mostly me gushing over Madison's voice casting, Maggie Blue O'Hara, and the better pacing of this episode. Honestly, I think if this is how the rest of Cardcaptors is going to go, then I'm really going to enjoy this series, because I was expecting Cardcaptors to be a little more of a train wreck than it is, because it comes out really well. Like, as a functional piece, it comes out really well. And I'm guessing, of course, that that's really not the part that most people focus on when they talk about Cardcaptors as a dub. And we'll get into that as those episodes come in. I mean, I guess, yeah, when people criticize Cardcaptors, it's never on a technical level. Although people will usually give some criticism to the voices, but first off, I don't think most of the voices are bad. Again, people are mixed, I guess, on Madison's voice, but yeah, I give it thumbs up. I actually, now that I know more about the series, because remember, like I said, when I watched Cardcaptors the first time, there was no background of Madison that I would know. And then going back to the sub many years later and seeing Tomoyo and seeing, you know, who Tomoyo's character is, it informs and gives context to why they cast Madison the way they did. And it works in that context. I think I never really gave it a whole lot of thought as a kid. I think maybe I thought she sounded a little out of place, since she was literally the only person in the series that sounded like that, but I guess really it's not any more out of place than the one Southerner that appears in an anime because one of the characters has an Osaka accent. But yeah, that's the second episode. It felt good. It felt a little chopped up, like they're still cutting scenes here and there. I didn't look at what the time code was for how long this episode was, but I'm assuming that they're just cutting seconds here and there just to kind of save some space. But yeah, that's a second episode down. Join me next time when I watch Allies. And I'm really looking forward to that one, because the amount of butchering that they had to do to that episode is hilarious. And I'll get more into detail on that on the next episode. I'll see you next time.